Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting for Richfield. It's 7 p.m. on December 19th. All right, our first order of business is the open forum. Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak for the open forum? Is there anybody who's called in? All right. If you do wish to call in, you can dial 1-415-655-0001. And then the webinar access code is 2458-440-3509. So we'll just wait for a moment and see if anyone calls in. This would be a lovely evening to call in with the snow flurries. You wouldn't have to drive over.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so if someone does call in, we will come back to them. Next, we have approval of the minutes of the regular HRA meeting of November 21st, 2022. Oh, go ahead.
I had a question about whether or not Onisera-san got the information that she was looking for.
Oh, okay. Can we address that, Executive Director Palman?
Yes, thank you, members of the board. I do have answers to provide tonight. We decided it was easier to provide those answers to you live than to try and respond to the comments from last week's open forum directly. So those questions were in regard to the approval of an assumption and assignment agreement that was on the HRA's agenda in October. The first of those questions was, did we advance $7 million to the companies or owners involved? And I want to make clear that we didn't advance any money to anyone as part of that action or ever as part of that project. There's a pay-as-you-go note that's been issued for that project, but no money was ever advanced. And that action that you took at that meeting did not did not grant any additional financial assistance to that project. It was simply transferring ownership and the responsibilities of the contract to another entity. One of the other questions was why the item was on the consent calendar, and that's why. It was really just a transfer of ownership from one company to another. It was a sale of real estate and the note. The HRA does need to approve those per the contract, but nothing else is changing in regard to the contract, which is why it's on consent. The HRA does always have the ability to pull items off consent, that consent calendar, if you'd like to discuss them in front of the audience. And then finally, there were questions related to the naming of the LLCs involved. And the HRA doesn't have any authority over what a company would choose to name its LLC, but the public can look up LLCs, both on the Secretary of State in Minnesota's website or Delaware, where the entity was located, and find additional information about them. So I think that covers it, unless anyone else had any other questions about the item.
Are there any other questions? All right. Would someone like to approve the minutes then?
Second.
I'll second that.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the November 21st, 2022 meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, we've approved the meeting. Now we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Are there any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the agenda. Next, we'll consider a resolution providing preliminary approval for the issuance of $10 million in revenue bonds for the benefit of the Upper Post Flats housing development. Executive Director Palman.
Thank you, Chair Supple, members of the board. The Upper Post Flats housing development is an extensive redevelopment and historic preservation project of 26 buildings within the historic Fort Snelling. The development includes approximately 190 units, ranging from studios to 5-bedroom units, and will house hundreds of residents once complete, likely adding more than 200 students to the Richfield School District. Dominium, doing business as Fort Snelling Leased Housing Associates, 1 LLLP, has approached the city or HRA requesting the issuance of $10 million in conduit bonds to help manage increased costs of the project and also to complete the construction of additional buildings. The issuance of these bonds would not impact the city's ability to issue their own bank-qualified bonds and would not impact the city or HRA financially. It does, however, offer the HRA the opportunity to influence the project. HRA staff have worked with the developer on the following stipulations. There's increased affordability that would be available through our assistance. Current affordability of the project, those affordable units are at 60% AMI. Through this deal, Dominium has agreed to provide either 80 to 100 units at 50% AMI or 40 to 55 units at 40% AMI, and that's for a term of 25 years. There's also the agreement to accept families who are part of the Richfield Kids at Home program, which, as you'll remember, is our shallow rent subsidy program that specifically targets people with children in the Richfield School District. A preference for Richfield Section 8 voucher holders. That's dependent on some service area discussions with Metro HRA, but Dominium is open to that. And then also a 1.5% upfront fee. The initial request to the HRA tonight would authorize the city's bond council to request a housing allocation from Minnesota Management and Budget. Additional approvals outside of the city and HRA's authority are also required. If the developer obtains housing allocation, a public hearing will need to be held prior to the actual issuance of the bonds. Tonight we have the HRA's bond counsel, Julie Eddington, here, as well as representatives from Dominium, Owen Metz, and his attorney as well, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, Commissioner Onesarg?
I would like to see an increase in the accessibility, the accessible units that have zero threshold or roll-in showers. I don't believe the ones that are developed right now have that feature, and we're really lacking that. And considering that this is veterans have preference there, that we're getting some high numbers, like 28% of those veterans, 65 and older, aren't able to get into buildings, restrooms, people's apartments. So what I'd like to see is 20% of those type A roll-in showers available.
All right, did the developer want to respond to that? And if you could state your name for the record.
Of course, Owen Metz with Dominium. Chair, Commissioners, being a historic redevelopment, we have a lot of approvals we got to go through for architectural drawings and things like that. About half the buildings are already complete, so it's really difficult to make 20% of the units fully accessible given those historic requirements. We are providing, and I don't have the data in front of me, and I should, but I know we're providing more type A units or type B units. I forget what the requirement is than what's required of the existing building code and renovating those units. So unfortunately, I can't offer any sort of, or I'm not here and available to offer any sort of additional roll-in showers. I can look at I certainly can agree to go back and look at, bathrooms are not finished in those type A units, or type B units, forgive me for not knowing which ones those are that are the fully accessible. But I know we have fully accessible units that are in above what the state road, otherwise require.
That's great. Thanks for letting me know that. There's also sensory units where people with sensory disabilities need other features added to it. That'd be one thing I think would be able to be advanced.
Chair, Commissioners, I don't know off the top of my head what the state requires. We are because we're sort of in a weird spot where we're in unincorporated Hennepin County. We have to follow the state building code, so we actually have the state of Minnesota overseeing construction and plan review. And I'm just not sure what their hearing and visual requirements are for the apartment units. I can certainly report back and follow up with Melissa and you all to find out what those requirements are, if any, on us, and see what we can do to maybe improve.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Commissioner Vrees-Daniels?
I'm looking at the notes here that say that this could increase adding more than 200 students to the Richfield School District. I'm wondering with the buildings you have currently or are almost complete with, how many children are there now or anticipated? Do you have those, any idea?
Chair, Commissioners, you guys are stumping me tonight. I don't know. I know we have children. Most of the units are 2 bedrooms or greater.
Okay.
So the vast majority, I think it's 75% of the apartments are 2 bedrooms or greater. We only have about 14, I think, units occupied at this point. So it's still pretty early to know who's going to show up and how many children they'll have. That number that Melissa provided is sort of a rough average of our portfolio of how many children we'd expect. But because the large bedroom count, those are in so demand, that I'd be surprised if it's not actually in excess of that too.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Hanson.
Well, I would just like to open by saying I think this sounds like a fabulous project. I mean, to make use of these older buildings that had sat idle for a long time is a really great use of resources. But I just have one quick question to staff. The project is a little bit unconventional in that the properties are located outside the municipal boundaries of Richfield, and I'm just wondering, do we have any sort of like guidelines when we would support projects that are in that situation? Is it the fact that the school district covers the area? Is that kind of the deciding factor?
Commissioner Hanson, that's a great question. I can't think of a time, perhaps Julie might know, where we have actually supported a project outside of our boundary in this particular way. It is, from staff's perspective, the school district issue is the reason that we have really gone to bat, and we thought that this project was worth working on. The fact that these families are going to be part of our community, despite the fact that they're outside of our geographical boundary, these families will naturally be part of our community through the school.
Great, thank you.
Right, are there any additional questions? All right, then if someone would like to make the motion.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the attached resolution providing approval for the issuance of revenue obligations for the benefit of Fort Snelling Leased Housing Associates, LLLP, and taking other actions related thereto.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the attached resolution. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we have passed the resolution. Okay, thank you for the developers for coming forward with this project. We appreciate it. All right, so moving on, we are considering the appointment of a temporary secretary for the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Executive Director Palman.
Thank you, Chair Supple, members of the board. The terms of HRA Chairperson Mary Supple and HRA Secretary Maria Reagan Gonzalez will expire concurrent with the expiration of their council terms on January 9th, 2023. Per HRA bylaws, the Vice Chairperson shall serve in the absence of the Chair. Commissioner Aaron Vries Daniels is the current Vice Chair of the HRA. There is a possibility that Commissioner Vries Daniels will be unavailable for the January HRA meeting. Therefore, staff is recommending the appointment of a temporary HRA secretary. The temporary secretary would conduct the meeting in January should the Vice Chairperson be absent. On January 10th, 2023, Mayor Mary Supple and the council will appoint 2 council members to serve on the HRA, and these council members will be sworn in as commissioners of the HRA as the first order of business on January 17th. With a full body of 5 members, the HRA board will elect successors to serve as chair and secretary until the annual meeting in March. I know that this is a little bit confusing. There are all these machinations. I don't think we've ever had this scenario quite happen before. But if you appoint a temporary secretary now, we'll cover the HRA in case Commissioner Vries Daniels is not available in January.
Thank you. Would someone like to move to appoint a temporary secretary?
I would move to appoint Gordon Hanson as temporary secretary.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Is there any discussion?
Just thank you, staff, for working through this. I know it kind of was a puzzle piece, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm happy we're thinking ahead and planning ahead so we're not left in the lurch later on, so. Anything else? All right, so it's been moved to appoint Gordon Hanson as the temporary secretary for the Ridgefield Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I have one question. Does that take effect now or on January 9th?
That will take effect January 9th.
January 9th.
Actually, January 10th, your term, but yeah.
Yeah, during your 10th. All right. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, and thank you for accepting that responsibility, Commissioner Hanson.
My pleasure.
All right, next we'll move on to the Executive Director's Report. Oh, excuse me, the HRA discussion items come first. I skipped over that one. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss? All right, Commissioner Onesord.
I've been coming across a lot of new numbers for the percentage of people with disabilities, and I think our inclusionary housing policy is outdated now. So I'd like to move that we take a look at that again, possibly at the next meeting.
Is that something we can put on the schedule for sometime in the next couple of meetings?
I think that we could take a look at it in the next couple of meetings. I'm not sure that we could pull something together by January.
Okay.
But we could look at either a study session or a memo, and we can look at those. If you have the sources of those new numbers that you're looking at, you could send those to us. That would be very helpful.
Okay.
All right, are there other discussion items? All right, then we will, I think I would like to just say, I know Commissioner Regan Gonzalez couldn't be here tonight, but I want to publicly thank her for her service as her term is coming to an end here on the HRA and the EDA, and she has done a great deal for our group, so I just want to thank her for her service. Anything else? Then we'll move on to the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. I just have one item, and it's an unfortunate one. We did get notified that the Richfield Flats program did not get their tax credit funding. We don't have the scoring yet. We don't know the details of that. The only thing we know is that there were 50 applications and 17 were awarded. So I think this just highlights what we've been talking about for a long time, is that there are a lot of great projects out there. There's a lot of good work. There's a lot of communities that would like to provide affordable housing, and there is just not enough funding at really any level to be doing all that needs to be done. So we'll be evaluating that, and eventually the project will get a memo that shows how they scored and where it could have been better and things like that. But I did want to let you know.
Will that be shared with the legislature so they're aware that there's not enough funding to meet the needs?
Yes, we will definitely share that with our legislators.
All
And
right.
that's all.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to claims.
I will move claims.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the claims. Are there any questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've approved the claims. All right, at this point, we have finished all of our business, so we stand adjourned. And next, we're going to call to order the Economic Development Authority meeting for the city of Richfield. It's December 19th at 7:19 p.m. And again, we have the open forum. In the previous meeting, we went through all of the details of how people can call in. We'll wait for a moment to see if someone wants to call in. The number is 1-415-655-0001. Also, you can call ahead of time and leave a voicemail with Administrative Assistant Dubois or an email, and the comments will be read here at the meeting. So it does not look like we have anybody who's called in at this point, if I'm understanding the screen correctly. All right, so we'll just move on, and if someone calls in, we will take their call. Right now, we're moving on to the approval of the minutes of the regular EDA meeting of August 15th, 2022.
So moved.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the EDA minutes of August 15th, 2022. Are there any questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the minutes. Next, we have approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. I'm not seeing anyone raising their hands to speak, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we've approved the agenda. Next, we're going to consider the election of Finance Manager Kamud Verma as the EDA Authority Assistant Treasurer. Executive Director Palman.
Thank you, President Supple, members of the board. The bylaws of the Richfield EDA provide that the EDA appoint both a treasurer and assistant treasurer. Historically, the assistant treasurer position has been held by either the finance director or the community development accountant. The retirement of the community development accountant, Mert Link, has left this position vacant, and staff is recommending that the board approve the appointment of finance manager Kamud Verma to fill the role. The assistant treasurer has the powers and duties of the treasurer if the treasurer is absent or the position is vacant. With the term of current treasurer Maria Reagan Gonzalez coming to an end, it's important to fill the assistant treasurer position so treasurer responsibilities may be covered until a new board member is elected. And that's all.
All right. Thank you. Would someone care to make the motion?
I move that we elect Finance Manager Kumad Verma as the Economic Development Authority Assistant Treasurer.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and welcome. Thank you. We're happy to be working with you. All right, next we're going to move on to the introduction to Hennepin County Elevate Business Program and consider a preliminary letter of support and intent to partner.
Thank you. In late 2020, Hennepin County launched its Elevate Business initiative. The Elevate Business program is intended to provide access to experts, tools, and programs designed specifically for new and growing businesses. Any Hennepin County business owner or resident who owns or wants to start a business will have access to 25 hours of free consulting in a variety of areas, including planning and evaluation, legal, financial, marketing, and access to capital. A culturally diverse network of professional business advisors and consultants are available to help write a business plan, provide legal guidance to establish your business, share information about community-based lenders, network, coach, and more. An introductory presentation was attached to your packet for review. As the city and EDA evaluate and look to expand services to Richfield business, Elevate Business is a likely partner. Partnership with the county would include a financial commitment of approximately $5,000 annually. This investment will help to fund an expanding network of professional advisors, as well as communication tools, cross-advertising with Richfield Business Services, and regular reporting on Richfield Business use of the Elevate Business services. For an additional fee, the city could have designated a special business advisor or navigator who would be our point of contact to direct anyone within Richfield who is looking to get started with Elevate Business. The county is asking for preliminary letters of support and financial commitment from cities interested in this partnership before the end of the year. While our work to evaluate economic development programming is still underway, it seems clear to staff that this partnership would be a wise investment. And I'll just share with you that I did check in with our consultant, John Stark, who is doing that economic development evaluation for us, and he would be very supportive of recommending this to the EDA. He thinks the Elevate Business program, their platform, is going to be really helpful to people looking, entrepreneurs in Richfield. So yes, tonight I'm just looking for your preliminary approval on sending them this letter. It would not be a final commitment. We'd work on a contract with them and flesh things out. But for now, they would like preliminary commitment.
All right, go ahead. If anyone would like to have a question, Commissioner Vries-Daniels?
Yeah, I have a question. I actually sent this to someone a couple of weeks ago for them to use, so it's interesting that it's here now as well. So just so I understand, the services exist to Richfield residents and businesses already, whether we invest or not. But investing helps expand that network, can give us some tools and some data specifically about Richfield and their interaction with this. And that's the enhancement we get by pledging the additional 5,000 or giving them that. Is that correct?
Commissioner Reese Daniels, that's exactly right. Okay. The platform exists. We have actually been sending people there for months. We think it's a great program, and so we have already been pushing people there. This partnership would allow us some marketing opportunities. They'd provide us some additional assistance, and yes, the data on how Richfield was using it, I think it would be helpful in identifying ways that the EDA can target their services to fill gaps and understand what our businesses need.
Thank you. Are there additional comments?
How is this different or in line with the Open to Business program?
That's a great question. Open to Business is actually going to fold in under this program. Open to Business will be one of the providers that is available through Elevate. Right now, we have a contract with Open to Business. So does Hennepin County. It's a partnership contract, so Hennepin County actually pays part of Richfield's contract, and Richfield pays the other. That model won't be available anymore. Open to Business will fold in under this. What Open to Business could continue to offer us is that business navigator position. We have an excellent representative with Open to Business right now. She's a Spanish speaker. She's worked with the Latino Economic Development Advisory Council. She will be, I think, a great first stop for Richfield. So we're going to seriously look at that business navigator part of it and perhaps an additional financial contribution to make sure we get that. But that's how this will work together.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Hanson?
Well, I don't have a question, but more of a comment. And I think this is an exciting prospect to be having this greater partnership with Elevate Business. I know there's a lot of budding entrepreneurs out there, and I think a lot of times what kind of holds them back is it's not quite knowing, how to arrange financing, how to do marketing, some of the little functions of business. So the fact that we can have these resources at hand, and with this partnership, as it's been mentioned, this has always been open to our residents, but maybe promote the idea and promote this service to our residents more, I think will be very worthwhile. And I'm excited about this.
All right. Other comments, questions? I was actually very excited to see this as well, because it's funny that you mentioned that you've been talking to people about it and you've been talking to people about it, because I had a conversation with someone about this, that they were wanting to use the 25 hours of business services. So I think this is really a really good program that the county provides, and I'm glad that we're going to be part of it. So did anybody have any other questions? Would someone wish to make the motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to direct staff to prepare and submit a preliminary letter of support and financial commitment for partnership with Hennepin County in the Elevate Business Program.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there further comments or questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I'll wait. All right, we have passed the motion. Moving on to EDA discussion items. I had one question. There was mention that we were going to get a report from the consultant, and then I was wondering where we are in the hiring process for the economic development manager.
Yes, so we have a work session scheduled in January for the presentation by John Stark with Enduring Cities, and he's going to present the findings of his report. It's an evaluation of what Richfield has provided in the past, as well as services that other communities provide, and some direction on where we might want to focus our work. And then we're working on finalizing the position description for the economic development manager. And I hope I'm not going to send that out over the holiday. I'm waiting until the new year to send that out. So I'm hopeful to have someone on board, I would say, by late February.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for discussion? All right, then we'll move to the executive director's report.
Thank you. That covered my executive director's report. I don't have anything further.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move on to claims.
I'll move claims for approval.
Second?
All right, is there any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the claims, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we have completed our business. I wish you all a very happy new year, and we stand adjourned.